Morning, Saffron. Good to see you.
Morning, Hayley. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well. For the purposes of our audience, I'm joined by Saffron Demel-Espeute, and she is really keen to talk to me today about her career in procurement to date, but also a wonderful network that she is the founder of that sits firmly in the EDI space, which we will come on to a little bit later, just to give you a bit of a teaser. But as a starter for 10, Saffron, why don't you just tell our audience a little bit about you and your background, if that's all right?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Hayley. So as Hayley mentioned, I'm Saffron Demel-Espeute. I currently work in the public sector, looking after business process outsourcing as a category lead. Prior to that, my experience has been in banking, where I was a sourcing manager looking after the management consultancy category. So mainly based on kind of professional services, really, and outsourcing as well. I have had a relatively short career in procurement so far. I've been in it for just over 3 years now, but really enjoyed the time that I've spent in it so far. I've learned so much, and I just can't wait to see where my career goes in procurement, to be honest.
So how did you get into procurement in the first place?
To be fair, having spoken to quite a few people, I think my story is relatively common in that I fell into it. So I was on a graduate scheme in my time in banking. On my fourth placement actually, I kind of wanted to take charge of my own career really, and said essentially that I want really specific experience working with external stakeholders. Prior to that, I'd been in, internal risk, I'd been in colleague engagement, and I'd been in very specific kind of anti-money laundering teams as well. So very kind of niche areas, but all really internally focused. So I wanted to ensure that I could, engage with people outside of the bank and, represent the brand and ensure that, I'm putting out the right information to the right people. So I took that to one of the directors and essentially said, I want to get that external stakeholder management experience. They said, okay, sourcing sounds like a great place to do that. So why don't you try that? Like, yeah, that sounds great, but I have no idea what it is. So I kind of turned up on my first day, actually in person at the time, which seems like a lifetime ago now, starting a role in person. And, my manager was talking to me about RFPs and RFIs and RFQs. And I was like, oh my God, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have a lot to learn here. But actually, the role was really interesting. And, it's testament because I'm still in the kind of, procurement environment now. So really enjoyed that time. I joined that team as an assistant sourcing manager, and then was promoted as a sourcing manager, and then essentially have worked my way up to category lead, where I am now in the public sector.
How have you found the differences between kind of banking and the public sector? Because very different domains.
They are very different, but also they're very similar in that, the risk management, the complexity, just how big it is. I mean, obviously, nothing could have prepared me from going from a bank, which is quite a big establishment, to the public sector and government, which I hadn't really appreciated how big the government was before I was in it. Yeah. And, the function of government as well, and how everyone makes decisions in it. I think I hadn't really appreciated that either. So I did have quite a steep learning curve in terms of, picking up everything to do with how government works, but at the same time, trying to understand procurement regulations, because the way that things are bought in government is not the same as the way that things are bought in the private sector. So yeah, that was quite interesting as well. And I think I had quite a big responsibility when I came into the team, in that I was leading a procurement as well. So it was quite a lot to learn in the 6 months that I was in the role, when I then had to take on a procurement. But it was really interesting. I got a lot of insight, and I am a person that learns by doing anyway. So it was just a great experience, and I'm still in the team now. So still got a lot to learn about public sector, but I'm sure that it will continue wherever I go, to be honest.
Very good. And having fallen into the profession, what are you most passionate about when it comes to procurement?
Yeah, so for me, it's all about kind of building relationships with both internal and external stakeholders. And obviously, um, internally, I mean, the whole of government really. So it's really understanding, what the buyer's requirements are, because I guess in my role, I kind of act as more advisory in terms of, supporting people with their requirements and their procurements. So it's really just getting a detailed understanding of what it is, the clear purpose, supporting them with that, and just providing really, really good advice. And I'm passionate about, upskilling and ensuring that I'm an expert in the area that I'm working in as well. So it is about being able to share that knowledge and insight that I've gained with internal stakeholders. And I think, again, the key to, good procurement is external stakeholder relationships as well. So again, really passionate about building those relationships, making sure that we're really kind of working with suppliers in the best way possible to, ensure that we're working in a strategic manner, basically.
Very good. How's that been throughout the pandemic? Because obviously procurement was kind of put on the map by the government. Weekly, Boris would stand up and say, we're procuring PPE, and the word procurement was bandied around a lot. And I think people then understood what it actually meant. So being in the government function in the height of a pandemic must have been quite, I guess, interesting and challenging at the same time, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, so my experience prior to, obviously, so I actually joined this role in the pandemic. So I joined in September 2020, which was an experience in itself, starting a role virtually in a different sector, and it was a promotion as well. So it was quite a lot to learn. But prior to the pandemic and prior to this role, I'd always, been in person in terms of relationship buildings, meeting face to face, having formal meetings essentially, or informal chats and things like that. A lot of it was done virtually as well, because we were quite a remote team at the time, but there was a lot more kind of face-to-face interaction, and so that obviously makes things easier. I think coming into this role in the pandemic where everything was virtual, it did test my skills in terms of relationship building in a virtual environment. But I think that because of the technology that we've got at the moment, and everyone just pulling together and getting stuck into the role, essentially, I found that actually it's been quite easy to build those relationships in this virtual environment, because we've had to essentially, and it's for the greater good. So yeah, I've personally found it a lot easier, and I must admit I don't miss getting on the train to to X, Y, and Z location. And to be honest, in terms of waking up at 5 a.m. and getting on a train, I do like the flexibility of meeting people online, like yourself, to be fair, in terms of having this conversation. I'm based just outside of London, so yeah, I can't even imagine how long it would take to meet you today.
Yeah, for us to meet would have been a couple of hours. It's half a day, isn't it? And I think there's two schools of thought at the moment. A lot of people are now used to this hybrid, remote, flexible working policies, whatever you want to call it. But people aren't firmly in one camp or the other. I think if there is a compelling reason to be in the office because you're scoping out a project with stakeholders, or you're meeting colleagues to collaborate, it's valid. I think where organisations fall down, or where people get disillusioned, if they're all being mandated to come to an office and then sit here and do what we're doing now and have Teams conversations all in a row of desks, because that doesn't serve the purpose of getting people back to the office. So I think that the hybrid remote working will always have a place now in certainly society, and for most organisations, to be honest with you. So what would you say you're most proud of in your career to date, or what would you cite as kind of your key achievements if you look back?
Yeah, so I would say it's definitely been in this role in particular, and in relation to one of the procurements that I've delivered in this role. I think coming in completely new to the public sector, without that experience prior, but getting on board with all of the information and the processes, working as a really kind of tight-knit team to get something quite high profile and quite, complicated over the line has personally been one of my biggest achievements. I think I mentioned it in the recent International Women's Day blog as a kind of quote around, imposter syndrome, and having the feeling that you're not good enough, or oh my god, something's going to go wrong. But actually, when you've delivered something, you've got it there tangibly, it's done, it's over the line, and people are using the framework that you've put in place. Essentially, it is just a really validating feeling. And I know obviously we shouldn't seek external validation all the time, but it for me kind of confirmed that I do know what I'm doing. I do have the skills and kind of know how to do my job. So that's probably my proudest achievement.
Gives you the confidence. I really liked your quote as well. She believed she could, so she did. Did you see I responded with the image so that is up in my office, that exact quote on a graphic framed, and I look at it every day, and it just is a bit of a reminder. And I think there is a gender when it comes to belief in the workplace, that clearly two different ways of approaching it. And I think that there's so many studies out there that say, like, a man will look at a job description and probably can only do 7 out of 10 things on it, but will go, yeah, I can do it, I'm going for that interview, I'm going to have that job. Whereas a female will look at exactly the same job description and go, well, I can only do 6 or 7 of those things, therefore I'm not going to apply. And it is about the confidence, the imposter syndrome piece, and you see it more and more. And actually just raising awareness and having conversations like this, hopefully then push women to want to further their careers and have that belief, self-belief that it can be done.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Brilliant. So in terms of you fell into procurement, most people do. It's still not a profession. I think when you graduate, you go, yes, I want to be in procurement, and there aren't many university degrees that support it. There are some that do really good procurement supply chain degrees, but not many. So what advice would you give people starting out their procurement career, either as a fresh graduate wanting to understand what it is, or perhaps a falling into it from kind of either sales or operations or other functions?
Yeah, I think my biggest thing, and it relates back to the point around, what am I most passionate about, is literally just the networking piece. So I, again, wouldn't have got into procurement without, having built a relationship with the director, who essentially said to me, why don't you try this this role, essentially, and see if it's something that can give you the skills that you want. But it is all about, meeting new people, trying different things, and seeing, where your passion is, or what you like, or what you're good at, essentially. So yeah, that is kind of my biggest piece of advice. And I think procurement is so flexible because you can try so many different things. There are so many different categories across procurement. So even if, one specific category isn't floating your boat, really, you can go and try something else. And that might be exactly where you want to be. You see your career kind of progressing, and there's just such a wealth of different opportunities. And even if it isn't on the actual buying side, you've got, supplier relationship management, all of that stuff. There's just so many different things that you can do and you can try. I'm obviously yet to do loads of different things, but I can't wait for that in terms of, my career. I'm just so excited in terms of trying different roles, broadening my experience. And I'd really say that that's kind of my advice to someone who's looking at potentially starting a role in procurement. It's just network, talk to people, see what it is that you think that you'd like to do, and then go for it, essentially.
Fantastic. Now, on the subject of network, you are the founder of Black in Procurement, which is an online community. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about what the thought process was behind it, how it was founded, why it was founded, and what it entails?
Yes, so Black in Procurement is my brainchild, essentially, which was launched in October last year, so October 2021, during Black History Month. I would say prior to that, I probably had the idea for quite a while. I probably had the idea from 2020, but again, the internal imposter syndrome, which said, is anyone actually interested in this idea? Would anyone join this community? Kind of held me back from actually, just going for it and launching it and see where it goes, essentially. But we have, well, I say we, it is me at the moment in terms of the team. But the network itself has three key aims. So one is to connect people in the community. I think there is a number of Black people within working within the procurement scene, but I know from my experience, sometimes I've been the only Black person in the room. And so it's just a safe space, essentially, for people to come together as a community, share knowledge, share ideas, share challenges that they're having, just have those conversations in a kind of room or virtual room of people that have, similar challenges or can learn from each other. The second point, and again, relates back to something that I've said, which is with regards to, falling into procurement. I really want to raise awareness of what procurement and supply is. I think at a school and even university level, as you say, there are some universities that do really, really good courses on it, but actually from even before that, everyone goes out and buys something, but actually people don't realize that you can do that as a job. And
someone else's money is great, right?
Yeah. So I really just want to raise awareness of the fact that, procurement exists as a career choice, and it is a really good career choice. There's so many skills that you can gain here. And particularly in my community as well, when I'm trying to explain what I do for a living to people, I do get quite a few blank faces. And so I really want to change that and, ensure that people are aware of the opportunity. And then I think the third key aim for the network is to, inspire people. So whether that's through, in the long term, mentoring programs or, sponsorship, things like that, that are just really, really key to, progressing in your career. That's a key focus of mine in terms of, that inspirational piece, providing role models to people in the community as well, so that they can see, other people have done it. So I can also do that too, because I did hear a quote a long time ago. I'm not sure if I completely resonate with it, because I do know that you can, break the mold and be whatever it is that you want to be. But a while ago, I heard the quote that you can't be what you can't see. And to some extent, I think, in terms of that specific quote, it does make it, harder, or people have I guess, a journey to go on to be the first person to do something, for example. And, if you can see that someone else has already done it, brilliant. That's just inspiration there. You can see that someone else has gone on that journey. You can ask them how they did it, get that insight, get that knowledge, and, potentially incorporate that into your own journey and make it a bit easier for you. And that's really what I'd like to do in terms of the inspiring piece. In terms of the network itself, I kind of came about the idea because I was looking for a network and I couldn't find anything, not in the UK anyway, in terms of, a community of Black people that work in procurement specifically. I know, as I've said, procurement is a bit of a niche in that not everyone knows what it is. But yeah, I couldn't find something specific to, Black community and professionals working in there. And that, so I thought, I might as well create something for myself, one that I can benefit from, but I can actually then benefit the entire community as well. So that's kind of how it's come about. It is still in its infancy, so it's about 6 months old now, and it is only me at the moment. So given that I'm involved in so many other things as well in terms of, inclusion, diversity, I'm passionate about it from a working perspective as well. So I do a lot internally at work. But doing this outside of work as well. And then, the day job, I'm also doing my SIPs at the moment as well. There is quite a few plates, a few plates spinning at the moment. But it is one of my passions, and I do hope to do a lot more with it this year, given that I've now launched it, and it's got a few exciting things coming up, which more information will be shared in due course. But yeah, really excited to see where it goes this year.
Very good. And how, if people are watching this today and want to be part of your network, how do they join or sign up, quite simply?
Yeah, so you can find us on LinkedIn. We do have a membership form that you can complete, and then you'll be able to, get our emails, and you'll be added to our distribution list, and you'll be invited to the events that we have as well. You can also find us on Instagram. We have an Instagram page, which is Black in Procurement, all one word. Those are the two main platforms that we're using at the moment in terms of, again, expansion of the network. I would like to, be on more platforms, but again, that's in terms of the short, medium term. That's really what I'd like to do, to be able to get our message out there much more as well. But for now, LinkedIn and Instagram.
Very good. And I know you said there's more to come, and you might just want to leave a little taster of that. Is that by way of events that you might want to put on throughout the course of the year?
Yes, it is. So events throughout the year. I had a really interesting conversation quite recently about an event that I'm looking to put on. It has come off the back of one of the other events that I ran in January, where the conversation kind of steered towards, supply diversity. So I am looking at running an exciting event on that quite soon. And in terms of other things that we'd like to be doing, we really like to, ensure that our emails are, valuable to people as well. So really sharing interesting content through our emails, and also collaborating with other networks and other kind of career development platforms as well, to ensure that, we're sharing knowledge, we're sharing insight, and everyone can benefit from it, essentially.
Brilliant. That sounds fantastic. Well, if anyone from our network is watching and wants to be part of it, please do go on LinkedIn and Instagram and sign up. And I guess lastly, you mentioned kind of EDI being important for you, and clearly you've started the Black in Procurement Network to raise awareness, given that at times you've been the only Black person in the room, and you need to have those positive role models, don't you? You need to know, okay, well, how do we make workplaces more diverse? It's on everyone's agenda now, whether it's, race, ability, age, whatever it might be. It clearly seems to be more on organisational agenda.
Yeah.
What are the types of things that you're doing, kind of, internally? Personally, we know, but from a business point of view, that you can share, that you think might help other organisations, because can be quite taboo. So it's where do you start, and how do you start to diversify your procurement teams when currently you might not have that in place?
Yeah, so I think, and I mean, I'm not a ED&I expert, to be honest. I do this purely kind of from passion, essentially. So where I am at the moment, I'm the Race Equality Network Chair, and I'm also leading a development program designed for, individuals of ethnic minority heritage, essentially, within the commercial space. I think in terms of, diversifying procurement teams, it is all about, not being afraid to make mistakes, really. I think, as you say, because it is so taboo, people are really scared and kind of back away from having the conversation. But actually, if we can just be open, honest, transparent, ask the questions, of course, where you feel comfortable doing that, but ask the questions, have the conversation, and, ensure that others feel comfortable in having that conversation as well. And then you start to really build that inclusive environment. And I always say, to be fair, that inclusion should come before diversity, because you don't want to have a diverse workforce that doesn't feel included. So yeah, it is about, building that culture where people feel comfortable to bring their whole self to work, and then starting to, implement, metrics around what you're looking to do from a diversity perspective, and then including those people within your organization that are passionate or want to make a difference in that journey as well, to ensure that you've got different viewpoints and different people who are able to support that journey through to, a more diverse workforce. But I would say that that's my personal opinion. again, I'm not an ED&I.
No, of course.
Yeah, I think that that's kind of the best way to kind of tackle some of these issues.
Yeah, and I think, like, you're doing all the right things. It's just about raising awareness. It's speaking today. It's getting the message out there, and you'll be a role model for people watching this going, oh, that makes sense to me. I might want to start a career in procurement, and that's how it snowballs. And I think to get the talent of the future through, there's a long way to go, because traditionally the boards are still predominantly male, pale and stale, as we know, but that's always going to be the case until the talent of the future comes through. So because it hasn't happened historically, so you can't have boards that are completely diverse at the moment unless people are being championed at the middle management level to undertake those positions. So I think we're in a real kind of tipping point now, where the talent of the future that comes through is as diverse as possible. And then in 20 years, it won't even be an issue, and that's the hope anyway.
Yeah, that's what I hope for, 100%. But I do think, yeah, as you say, and kind of as mentioned, action does need to be taken to make sure that that is a proactive thing, and we're not just waiting for it to magically happen, because history would tell us that is not working at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you today. Thank you so much. Best of luck with Black in Procurement. We will help in any way possible to spread the word and do some joint events. We've got a brilliant network. So if anybody here watching today is as passionate as we are, then please do sign up to Saffron's cause and help raise awareness. And that would be a wonderful outcome.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Hayley. It's been great to talk today.